Moving on to CNS pharmacology, let us start chapter 21 and Kadzang's board reviews. This chapter is all about introduction to CNS pharmacology. So moving on to the targets of CNS drug actions, the drugs that act on the CNS are the most commonly prescribed drugs in clinical use. So most of these drugs act by changing ion flow through transmembrane channels of nerve cells. So most of these drugs, so you have the nerve cells, right, the neurons. So they change that ion flow through the transmembrane channels of the nerve cells. So transmitter reuptake transporters constitute a second class of drug targets, especially for antidepressant agents. Inhibition of acetylcholine metabolism is a major action of the drugs currently approved for use in Alzheimer's disease, and GABA metabolism is inhibited by an anticonvulsant agent. Finally, a few drugs appear to act by altering the function of neuroglial cells. These satellite cells support the neurons metabolically and may also modulate transmitter synthesis and disposition. So moving on to the types of ion channels. Ion channels of neuronal membranes are of two major types, voltage gated and ligand gated. So voltage gated ion channels respond to changes in the membrane potential or the voltage of the membrane. They are found in high concentration on the axons of nerve cells and include the sodium channels responsible for action potential propagation. So the voltage gated sodium channels and the voltage gated potassium channels, the VGCs. So the cell bodies, axon terminals and dendrites also have voltage sensitive ion channels for sodium, potassium and calcium. Ligand gated ion channels, also called ionotropic receptors, ligands because ions act as the ligands, respond to chemical neurotransmitters that bind to receptor subunits present in their macromolecular structure. Neurotransmitters also bind to G protein coupled receptors or metabotropic receptors that can modulate voltage gated ion changes channels basically. Neurotransmitter coupled ion channels are found on cell bodies and on both the presynaptic and the postsynaptic sides of the synapses. So basically, the types of ion channels in the CNS, you have voltage gated, ligand gated channels, as well as you have your GPCs, G protein coupled receptors. Ligand gated channels, you're calling them ionotropic, okay, whereas GPCs, you're calling them as metabotropic. So moving on to the types of receptor channel coupling. In the case of ligand gated ion channels or LGCs, activation or inactivation is initiated by the interaction between chemical neurotransmitters and their receptors. So coupling may be through a receptor that acts directly on the channel protein, through a receptor that is coupled to the ion channel through a G protein, or through a receptor that is coupled to a G protein that modulates the function or formation of diffusible second messengers, including cyclic AMP, inositol triphosphate or IP3 or DAG, which secondarily modulate ion channels. So you can see that illustrated in this figure. Okay, A here shows a voltage gated ion channel or a VGC, in which the voltage sensor controls the gating. So here you can see the voltage, the plus and minus signs, they control the gating, the broken arrow. And here in B you can see a ligand gated ion channel or an ionotropic channel, in which the binding of the neurotransmitter to the ionotropic channel receptor controls the gating. So this is the binding of the ligand, it controls the gating. In C you can see a metabotropic receptor or a G protein coupled receptor. So a metabotropic receptor is coupled, this is the receptor, it is coupled to the G protein, and it can interact directly with an ion channel. So these G proteins in turn, so you have metabotropic channels, substances or substrates, they are interacting with the receptor which is coupled to a G protein, and this influences the gating of the actual ion channel. And finally D shows a receptor coupled to a G protein. So you have the receptor here, you have the G protein that activates an enzyme, okay, and this enzyme generates a diffusible second messenger such as IP3 DAG or cyclic AMP, for example in this case cyclic AMP, which interacts to modulate an ion channel. So you can have a voltage gated channel, you can have a ligand gated channel, you can have a receptor that is coupled to a G protein, you can have a receptor that is coupled to a G protein which activates an enzyme that releases a second messenger which causes its effects and regulates the gating. So moving on to the role of the ion current carried by the channels, so excitatory or depolarizing postsynaptic potentials or EPSPs are usually generated by the opening of sodium or calcium channels or the closure of potassium channels or inhibition of potassium current. In some synapses, similar depolarizing potentials can result from the closing of potassium channels. Yes. So inhibitory or hyperpolarizing postsynaptic potentials or IPSPs are usually generated by the opening of potassium or chloride channels. For example, activation of postsynaptic metabotropic receptors or G protein coupled receptors increases the efflux of potassium. Presynaptic inhibition can occur via a decrease in calcium influx elicited by an activation of metabotropic receptors. So, presynaptic inhibition can result from a decrease in calcium influx, okay, elicited by activation of metabotropic receptors. Now, activation of postsynaptic metabotropic receptors increases the efflux of potassium. So, moving on to the sites and mechanisms of drug action, a small number of neuropharmacological agents exert their effects through direct interactions with molecular components of ion channels or on axons. Examples include certain anticonvulsants, for example, carbamazepine and phenytoin, local anesthetics, and some drugs used in general anesthesia. However, the effects of most therapeutically important CNS drugs are exerted mainly at the synapses. The possible mechanisms are illustrated in a figure, we'll discuss that. So, as noted earlier, drugs may act presynaptically to alter the synthesis, storage, release, reuptake, or metabolism of transmitter chemicals. Other drugs can activate or block both pre and postsynaptic receptors for specific transmitters or can interfere with the actions of second messengers. The selectivity of CNS drug action is based largely on the fact that different groups of neurons use different neurotransmitters and that they are segregated into networks that subserve different CNS functions. So here you can see the sites of CNS drug action. So drugs may alter at the presynaptic level. So this is the presynaptic level, right? So they can alter the synthesis of the neurotransmitter, they can alter the storage, and they can alter the metabolism of the neurotransmitter and also the release. Okay, they can also influence the reuptake and the degradation, and at the postsynaptic level they can act on the receptor for the neurotransmitter. They can increase or decrease the ionic conduction and also interfere with the actions of second messengers. You can both block the pre and postsynaptic receptors. Okay. So, drugs that alter neurotransmitter uptake are especially important for serotonin or 5-hydroxytryptamine 5-HT, noradrenergic and dopaminergic synapses. So serotonin and NE transporters, or SERT and NET respectively, are the targets of antidepressants, while NET and dopamine reuptake transporter are the targets of amphetamines and cocaine. Okay. So SERT and NET are targets for antidepressants. Okay, whereas amphetamines and cocaine target dopamine reuptake transporter and NET. A few neurotoxic substances damage or kill the nerve cells, for example, MPTP or methylphenyl tetrahydropyridine. MPTP is cytotoxic to neurons of the nigrostriatal dopaminergic pathway. Okay, you know the nigrostriate pathway, right? From the substantia nigra. So that's that. And here some high yield terms. Voltage gated ion channels are transmembrane ion channels regulated by changes in the membrane potential, and ligand gated ion channels are channels that are regulated by interactions between the neurotransmitters and their receptors. They are also called ionotropic receptors. Metabotropic receptors are G pre-coupled receptors that respond to neurotransmitters either by a direct action of G proteins on ion channels or by G protein enzyme activation that leads to formation of diffusible second messengers. So excitatory postsynaptic potential, it is a depolarizing change. IPSP inhibitory, it is a hyperpolarizing change. And synaptic mimicry is the ability of an administered chemical to mimic the actions of the natural neurotransmitter, and it is a criterion for identification of a putative neurotransmitter. Moving on to the role of CNS organization. The CNS contains two types of neuronal systems, hierarchical and diffuse. So hierarchical systems, these systems are delimited in their anatomic distribution and generally contain large myelinated rapidly conducting fibers. Hierarchical systems control the major sensory and motor functions of the tracts. The major excitatory transmitters in these systems are aspartate and glutamate, and these systems also include numerous small inhibitory interneurons which use GABA or glycine as transmitters. So drugs that affect hierarchical systems often have profound effects on the overall excitability of the CNS. And diffuse systems or non-specific systems are broadly distributed, with single cells frequently sending branches to many different areas. The axons are fine and branch repeatedly to form synapses with many cells. The axons commonly have periodic enlargements or varicosities that contain transmitter vesicles. The transmitters in diffuse systems are often amines or peptides that commonly exert actions on metabotropic receptors. Drugs that affect these systems often have marked effects on such CNS functions as attention, appetite, and emotional states, the higher functions. So, transmitters at central synapses, you have the criteria for a transmitter status. To be accepted as a neurotransmitter, a candidate chemical must be present in a higher concentration in the synaptic area than in other areas. Okay, that is at the synaptic area. Then that is, it must be localized in appropriate areas. Then it must be released by chemical or electrical stimulation via calcium dependent mechanism. So calcium influx must cause docking of the vesicles to the presynaptic membrane and release the neurotransmitter. Produce the same sort of postsynaptic response that is seen with physiological activation of the synapse, that is, it must exhibit synaptic mimicry. Okay, so acetylcholine, so approximately 5% of brain neurons have receptors for acetylcholine. Most CNS responses to ACH are mediated by a large family of G protein coupled muscarinic or M1 receptors that lead to slow excitation when activated. The ionic mechanism of slow excitation involves a decrease in membrane permeability to potassium. Of the nicotinic receptors present in the CNS, you have the N and M type, right? Nicotinic and muscarinic. So, of the nicotinic receptors present in the CNS, those on the Renshaw cells, Renshaw cell inhibition, if you remember physiology last year, those on the Renshaw cells activated by motor axon collaterals in the spinal cord are the best characterized. Drugs affecting the activity of cholinergic systems in the brain include the acetylcholinesterase inhibitors used in Alzheimer's disease, such as rivastigmine, and the muscarinic blocking agents used in Parkinsonism, so benztropine. So, and drugs affecting the activity of cholinergic systems in the brain, you have ACH inhibitors, rivastigmine, and the muscarinic blocking agents used in Parkinsonism, benztropine. You park your Benz car, right? So, benztropine. Next, dopamine. So, it exerts slow inhibitory actions at synapses in specific neuronal systems, commonly via G protein coupled activation of potassium channels postsynaptic level or inhibition of calcium channels at the presynaptic level. The D2 receptor is the main dopamine subtype in basal ganglia neurons, and it is widely distributed at the supraspinal level. Dopaminergic pathways include the nigrostriatal pathway because the substantia nigra has a large concentration of dopaminergic neurons. So, mesolimbic pathway and tuberoinfundibular tracts. In addition to the two receptors listed, other dopamine receptor subtypes have been identified. So, D3, D4, D5. Drugs that block the activity of dopaminergic pathways include older antipsychotics such as chlorpromazine and haloperidol. Haloperidol is an older antipsychotic. That is why you see Anupam Kher as an old doctor prescribing it in that medical drama. Haloperidol is an older antipsychotic, so it may cause Parkinsonian symptoms. Drugs that increase brain dopaminergic activity include CNS stimulants such as amphetamine and commonly used anti-Parkinsonism drugs such as levodopa. And norepinephrine, so noradrenergic neuron cell bodies are mainly located in the brain stem and in the lateral tegmental area of the pons. So these neurons fan out broadly to provide most regions of the CNS with diffuse noradrenergic input. Excitatory effects are produced by activation of alpha 1 and beta 1 receptors. Inhibitory effects are caused by activation of alpha 2 and beta 2 receptors. So CNS stimulants such as amphetamines used in attention deficit hyperactivity disorder ADHD. So you use amphetamines in ADHD, cocaine, MAO inhibitors, phenelzine, and tricyclic antidepressants such as amitriptyline, triptyline are examples of drugs that enhance the activity of noradrenergic pathways. So amphetamines, A, and norepinephrine, so ANI. Okay, amphetamines are used in ADHD, and then you have MAO inhibitors, phenelzine, etc. So serotonin, most serotonin 5-HT pathways originate from cell bodies in the raphe nucleus or midline regions of the pons and upper brainstem, and these pathways innervate most regions of the CNS. So multiple 5-HT receptor subtypes have been identified, and with the exception of the 5-HT3 subtype, all are metabotropic. So 5-HT1A and GABA B receptors share the same potassium channel. Serotonin can cause excitation or inhibition of CNS neurons depending on the receptor subtype activated. Both excitatory and inhibitory actions can occur on the same neuron if appropriate receptors are present. Most of the agents used in the treatment of major depressive disorders affect serotonergic pathways to some degree. For example, tricyclic antidepressants, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, serotonin norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors, etc. The actions of some CNS stimulants and newer antipsychotic drugs such as olanzapine also appear to be mediated via effects on serotonergic transmission. The reserpine, which may cause severe depression of mood, depletes vesicular stores of both serotonin and norepinephrine in CNS neurons. Reserpine, what it does, it decreases the reserves of serotonin, so 5-HT, as well as norepinephrine in the neurons. Glutamic acid, so most neurons in the brain are excited by glutamic acid. High concentrations in the synaptic vesicles are achieved by the vesicular glutamate transporter VGLUT. So both ionotropic and metabotropic receptors have been characterized. There are three major subtypes of glutamate receptors. The N-methyl deaspartate or NMDA receptor is blocked by phencyclidine or PCP and ketamine. NMDA receptors are blocked by phencyclidine and ketamine. So ketamine, whatever. NMDA receptors appear to play a role in synaptic plasticity related to learning and memory. NMDA, N-methyl D-aspartate receptor, which is a form of glutamic acid receptor. Okay, glutamate receptors. So memantine is an NMDA antagonist approved for treatment of Alzheimer's dementia. Excessive activation of memantine, memory. Okay, memantine, Alzheimer's. So it is an NMDA antagonist. Excessive activation of NMDA receptors after neuronal injury may be responsible for cell death. The second glutamate receptor, the AMPA receptors, NMDA and the AMPA. So AMPA mediate an excitatory postsynaptic increase in both sodium and potassium conductance. An important marine toxin, domoic acid, activates the third glutamate receptor subtype or the kainate receptors and causes excitatory toxicity. So activation of various glutamate metabotropic receptors can reduce presynaptic Ca plus 2 conductance, decrease SCAMP, increase K plus conductance and increase IP3 and DAG. Next you have GABA and glycine. So GABA is the primary neurotransmitter mediating IPSCs in neurons in the brain. It is also important in the spinal cord. So GABA A receptor activation opens the chloride ion channels. GABA B receptors activated by baclofen, a centrally acting muscle relaxant, are coupled to G proteins that either open a potassium channel that is shared with 5-HT1A receptors or close calcium channels. Fast IPSPs are blocked by GABA A receptor antagonists and slow IPSPs are blocked by GABA B receptor antagonists. Drugs that influence GABA A receptor systems include sedative hypnotics, for example, barbiturates, benzodiazepines, zolpidem, etc., and some anticonvulsants such as gabapentin, tiazabine, and vigabatrin. So glycine receptors, which are more numerous in the cord than in the brain, are blocked by strychnine, a spinal convulsant. So strychnine is a spinal convulsant, S for S. Next, peptide transmitters. So many peptides have been identified in the CNS and some meet most or all of the criteria for acceptance as neurotransmitters. The best defined are the opioid peptides beta endorphin, met and enkephalin, and dynorphin, which are distributed at all levels of the neuraxis. Some of the important therapeutic actions of opioid analgesics such as morphine are mediated by activation of receptors for these endogenous peptides. Another peptide substance P is a mediator of slow EPSPs in neurons involved in the nociceptor sensory pathways in the spinal cord and the brainstem. Orexins are peptides associated with sleep-wake cycling and promote wakefulness. So peptide transmitters differ from non-peptide transmitters in that the peptides are synthesized in the cell body and transported to the nerve ending via axonal transport, and no reuptake or specific enzyme mechanisms have been identified for terminating their actions. And then you have endocannabinoids. They are widely distributed brain lipid derivatives, for example 2-arachidonyl glycerol, that bind to receptors for the cannabinoids found in marijuana. They are synthesized and released postsynaptically after membrane depolarization but diffuse backward retrogradely, acting presynaptically to decrease transmitter release via their interaction with a specific cannabinoid receptor. So they diffuse backward and act presynaptically to decrease transmitter release by interacting with cannabinoid receptors. Then finally you have other transmitters. So histamine receptors are widely distributed in the brain and appear to moderate arousal, appetite and memory. Centrally acting antihistamines have significant sedative and anti-motion sickness effects, and nitric oxide is not stored but synthesized on demand. And nitric oxide synthase or NOS is found in several types of neurons, but the role of NO in CNS function is poorly understood. Purines are co-transmitters in several types of transmitter vesicles, and receptors for ATP, adenosine, UTP and UDP are found in the CNS. ATP acts on metabotropic A1 receptors to inhibit calcium channels and reduce the release of other transmitters, and it also acts on P2X and P2Y receptors. So let us just look at this table to summarize everything that we have discussed thus far. So acetylcholine, it is distributed on cell bodies at all levels, short and long axons, and in the motor neuron Renshaw cell synapse. So M and N receptor subtypes. So M is blocked by pyrenzepine and atropine, M1 especially. M2 is blocked by atropine, pyrenzepine, atropine, and N nicotinic. So muscarinic M1 receptors, they are excitatory, okay. So they decrease K plus conductance, increase IP3 DAG. M2 are inhibitory, so increase K plus conductance and cyclic AMP. Nicotinic are excitatory and increase cation conductance. Then you have dopamine, so substantia nigra, cell bodies at all levels and all. So D1 is blocked by phenothiazines and D2 is blocked by phenothiazines and haloperidol. Okay, so you're blocking you're blocking the psychotic actions by blocking dopamine receptors by using older agents such as haloperidol or phenothiazines 1 prime P1 D1. So D1 is inhibitory, increases cyclic AMP, and D2 is also inhibitory but at the presynaptic level, so it decreases calcium conductance. Okay, and then norepinephrine, so cell bodies in the pons and brainstem project to all levels. So alpha 1 is blocked by prazosin, alpha 2 activated by clonidine, beta 1 and beta 2 blocked by propranolol, beta blocker. So alpha 1 is excitatory and beta 1 is excitatory, alpha 2 is inhibitory, beta 2 is inhibitory. Okay, then serotonin, the cell bodies in midbrain and pons project to all levels, especially in the raphe nucleus and the midline pons. So 5-HT1A, busiprone, busy, 1 is busy, 2A, clozapine, and 3 ondansetron, 5-HT4. So 5-HT1A is inhibitory, it increases the K plus conductance. The rest all 2, 3, 4 are excitatory. Next, GABA is present in the supraspinal interneurons and spinal interneurons involved in presynaptic inhibition. So GABA A and GABA B both are inhibitory, but GABA B is activated by baclofen and inhibitory at the presynaptic level. Glutamate and aspartate, they are found at relay neurons at all levels. So they have 4 subtypes, the NMDA and the subtype which is blocked by phencyclidine, ketamine and memantine, metabotropic subtypes. So NMDA is excitatory, metabotropic ones are inhibitory. And glycine, it is found in the Golgi bottle neurons, it also in the interneurons in the spinal cord and the brainstem. Single subtype which is blocked by strychnine, spinal convulsant, yeah, it's spinal convulsant. And also it is inhibitory, glycine obviously. And opioid peptides are found in cell bodies at all levels. So mu, delta and kappa are the 3 major subtypes of opioids. They're all inhibitory. They at the presynaptic level they decrease calcium conductance obviously. At the postsynaptic level they increase potassium conductance obviously. So all these are the skill keeper questions regarding the use of CNS drugs in pregnancy and characteristic of drug molecules to afford access to the CNS, and how are most CNS drugs usually eliminated from the body. So lipid solubility is an important characteristic of most CNS drugs in terms of their ability to cross the blood-brain barrier. So access to the CNS of water-soluble or polar molecules is limited to those of low molecular weight to facilitate diffusion, such as lithium ions and ethanol. CNS drugs readily cross the placental barrier and enter the fetal circulation. So concerns during pregnancy include the possible effects on fetal development and the potential for drug effects on the neonate if CNS drugs are used near the time of delivery. With the notable exception of lithium, almost all CNS drugs require metabolism to remove more water-soluble polar metabolites for their elimination. Thus, drugs that modify the activities of drug metabolizing enzymes may have an impact on the clearance of CNS drugs, possibly affecting the intensity or duration of these effects. So that is